Finding the right altcoin before a big giant like Blackrock does is almost impossible, but all we can do is collect information and hedge into that general direction, hopefully taking advantage of the pump before it happens. And so in today's video, guys, we're going to go over a selection of altcoins that I believe could very well be in the eyes of that massive giant company we all know as BlackRock. Especially right now, real-world assets are all the hype and all the buzz, so pay attention, because one right move in this area could land you multi-million-dollar status with nothing short than a few $1,000s. Well, hang on a sec. Before you kind of go to yourself, oh, okay, Kyron, going to make me a millionaire for a few $1,000s. That doesn't sound about right. Well, yes, it's good that you're thinking like that, because that definitely does sound a little over-embellished, but consider the total global asset value right now. Basically, if we were to put a number on how much the world is worth, it's about $900 trillion, so more or less enough to make me have a smile on my face if that was the balance of my bank account. However, it is said that in 2030, we could roughly see about 10% of this tokenized. Yes, that means a lot of that will be in crypto as well. So the tokenization of real-world assets and this whole buzz that is happening in the world right now is definitely real. And of course, it is no exception the fact that BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, is looking to tokenize assets. Now, this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, right? They recently launched their first tokenized fund called Buildle, tokenized on the Ethereum blockchain via Securitize, and one of these projects we'll look at in a second here is partnered with Securitize, so there's some big upside potential here. But again, this should come at no surprise to anyone in the crypto space, because just have a look at what Larry Fink has been hinting for the longest time. Matter of fact, over 12 months ago.
For markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. We will, and if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
In the words of Larry, everything is going to be ETF'd. Now, that was about 14 months ago. That was January of 2023. That was recorded. I remember listening to that, thinking to myself, hang on a second, something's going to happen here. The fact that Larry Fink is talking about this, and what's happening right now is we have this news, right? This little clip here that, by the way, is like 2 months old, okay? And this is typical crypto, right? Something happens now, like the Buildle fund, everyone starts referencing these videos that were out and about months ago. So this is why it's important to stay on top of news and stuff like that. But basically, the news of this tokenized Buildle fund came out from BlackRock, and it really doesn't mean all that much exactly for these projects, these real-world asset tokenization projects. But the noise in this general area is enough right now to cause this massive growth of the real-world asset / tokenization fund, which, by the way, I told you guys, based on my narrative list, was a 9 out of 10 now. This has been a 9 out of 10 on my narrative list for a while. All it takes is a little bit of news and the general noise blows up, okay? So either way, some of these altcoins we'll look at today are, of course, hitting this tokenization real-world asset and also DeFi narrative. But to find the real true gems, especially like all of these projects have basically at least 2x from the recent lows. So you're not going to find one that hasn't, because it's all, again, the buzz right now. But if we can find the ones that isolate some more of these top narratives, we can find real true players in the space that will pop off in an existing narrative later in the bull run. It won't be the only single time tokenization is brought up. Before we continue though, what is tokenization? You're probably scratching your head and asking right now. Well, tokenization is taking anything, whether that's physical or digital, and putting it in a blockchain form or on the blockchain essentially to allow anyone to have part ownership of that particular asset. Now, these assets can be bespoke, like pieces of artwork or something that someone makes for a particular purpose. It can also be things like, roads. It can be things like actual commercial property. It can be residential property, cars, phones, tablet, Alma AirPods. Anything can be tokenized so long as you can put it onto a blockchain. The purpose is to create a liquid market for something that is typically illiquid, or also just allow more people to have access to a particular asset that typically couldn't, due to high barriers to entry or due to it being in a liquid market in general, right? In the sense of trade finance. You have to have a lot of money to begin trading in trade finance, especially not just domestically, but internationally. And it does come with a lot of caveats, okay? So it opens it up to more people. You can do things like borrow against a house or in a digital form, for example. I mean, there is a million different ways and reasons why tokenization is important, and it makes extreme sense in a world moving completely digital. One of the biggest things we'll look at today, though, is the tokenization of financial assets, bonds, equities. A lot of these projects are looking to basically begin life tokenizing the US Treasury bonds. I think that's about where 99% right now of all the total tokenized value comes from, because it's, of course, the most safe and liquid form of anything in the world, pretty much, right? So that is the first thing you'll find. But of course, where things are progressing, it's looking like real estate's going to be like one of the next ventures, and things like traditional securities. And since you've made it this far without skipping ahead, first of all, I really applaud you. But second of all, I would love if you supported my work right now. And if you learned something new, by dropping a like down below, it really does mean a lot. And also subscribing, importantly, so you can achieve your crypto goals. Now, before we really start looking at these projects today, you need to know that currently real-world assets are the #1 performing narrative in crypto. It beats AI, it beats identity, it beats everything else. And part of the reason why is because this is moving very fast in the real world. A lot of these big narratives like AI and DeepIn, gaming as well, are big Web 2 narratives. Citigroup over here, we estimate up to $5 trillion could move into newer digital money formats such as CBDCs and stablecoins by 2030, which is part tokenization. Some of the projects we'll mention today will help support that dystopian world, I guess you could say, infrastructure, of which roughly half could be DLT or blockchain linked. Over here, tokenization of financial and real-world assets could be the killer use case blockchain needs for a breakthrough. We project tokenization could grow by a factor of 80x in private markets and reach up to $4 trillion in total value by 2030. And to give you a taste of what some of these large institutions and research groups are predicting the total asset market size to be by 2030, I mean, it's massive. These guys over here on the lower end, and literally, yes, the lower end of this prediction is $11 trillion by, again, 2030. Over here, one of the, I'd say, average predictions is about 68 trillion by 2030. If we even get 10% of the 10% of the global, world's value in crypto, so that's like what? I guess you could say 1%. It's going to be massive for these projects. Hence why I kind of started the video by saying you can literally turn a few $1,000s into the right project and make 1000x. It's just going to be incredible. And yes, the reason why anyone would want to tokenize something and put it onto a blockchain, for example, Blackrock tokenizing, again, some of the most basic, I guess, forms of money in the world or form of security in the world onto a blockchain, is because a blockchain is distributed, it's decentralized, it's immutable, you can't change it, and secure. All right, so obviously it is part of the reason why I think crypto, like that report from Citigroup said, will need tokenization as a killer so-called app or breakthrough for the traditional markets to adopt this technology. So finally, project #1 is Herera HBAR. The reason I've added these guys to this list, and I've added them first, is #1 because they're the highest market cap on this list. And second of all is they actually tokenize real-world assets right now. They're one of the first projects that springs to my mind with RWA tokenization, and I just don't know why other people haven't so far spoken about Herera, particularly because they're only about a 2x up from their all-time lows right now, and they are, I guess, expecting to launch to at least $1, right? $1.50, $2 maybe. So we've got some multiples still to happen for this project here, of course, not financial advice. And I love HBAR, and they're so tapped into the crypto market and trying to gain free marketing exposure because, and an indication of this, is that they changed their text on their homepage to real-world asset tokenization for, whatever, right? This was recently changed, and I know this because I look at these guys and stalk their project all the time. They are looking to take free advantage of whatever is the hot topic of crypto for the week, obviously, so long as they support whatever that might be. They're not looking to have this as a gimmick. And again, it's one of the reasons why I'm actually bullish on these guys, is because they know how to navigate the market and actually propagate, gain exposure. They have $50 million of so far tokenized assets on the network, which is quite impressive considering it is a very small narrative. Some of these other projects have a lot more, but again, Herera does more than just tokenize assets. They're also partnered with Red Swan Capital or Red Swan Markets, which are a tokenization marketplace where they tokenize commercial properties, okay? So they let the average person get into these commercial properties at a lower, I guess, threshold, which is pretty important because some of these commercial properties, if you want to get into this area, you have to put up like 30 to 40% sometimes of the property's value, which works out to be multi-millions. So it's hard for people to get into this particular area of investing, which is why most real estate investors like myself tend to navigate towards residential properties first and then go to commercial after. So yes, they're looking to leverage, and they are leveraging Herera and Herera's functionalities. Now, DLA Piper, which is a governing council member, have also created a particular product called Toko, which is a tokenization engine built on and for, tokenizing assets via Herera. Okay, these guys had $504 million of tokenized securities back in 2021, so one can only imagine what that might be like in today's value. Now, what I liked recently about Herera was that they put this tweet out pretty much poking fun at the crypto space, and I actually support them for this, because what we found, a lot of people, crypto Twitter bros especially, drowned the Ethereum address that was put out there by BlackRock with this build-all fund with things like low-quality meme coins and NFTs, right? So this, of course, has created naturally some buzz for their projects. Again, free marketing, that's what they do with these popular addresses like Vitalik's address, and again, for this BlackRock address, they'll send their meme coin and say, hey, look, BlackRock holds our meme coin, buy our meme coin, for example. But one individual actually, on Prankster, as they say, sent them 1 ETH via a sanctioned crypto mixer. Okay, so of course, this comes into question, right? There can be some serious issues for tokenization on a public network. Everything's public and you can send anything to it, right? It's a marketing scheme for some, and it's a way to troll for others. So Herera pointed out that they actually have a really unique mechanism built into their blockchain, or I guess hash graph, that no one pretty much talked about before. I didn't even know about it, right? Called token associations. Basically, you can pick and choose what gets sent into the address, fungible or non-fungible tokens. Matter of fact, you can take it to the nth degree and even say, I want to approve any transaction that comes in and or out of the address itself. So very flexible. It's a perfect foundation for these types of projects, very fast and secure by nature. So HBAR definitely makes it to this list as the highest market cap project, but one you need to be very well aware of for the real world asset narrative. Project number 2 is XTC Network, and this is another layer 1 project like Herera, built on blockchain, not as fast per se, but definitely suited to what its intended purpose is, which is solving the trade finance gap. We're talking about trillions. Now, XTC Network, I don't know why it isn't spoken about more often, because these guys are at the forefront of the particular area they're focused in, with massive partnerships already. For those of you who are keen, no BS crypto watchers, I sold my XTC somewhat recently, and that was because of my own ROI goals, right, within crypto itself. Back when I sold it, I was looking for a 30x. At the time, I didn't think XTC was capable of that. I still don't think it's capable of that. However, now I'm looking for a 10 to 12x, which I do think XTC can acquire. Now, I've got my bags full with HBAR, so I'm not doubling down on this Web 2 Layer 1 narrative. But for those of you who want a project that is extremely strong, a project that if for whatever reason you F up in this bull run and you have to hold your tokens for whatever reason through this cycle, XTC is one that will most definitely be one of the best gainers, I feel, in 2030's bull run because of their connections. First of all, they're solving a massive gap in trade finance where there's a problem with small and medium-sized enterprises where they can't do trade finance, right? Trade finance is historically a very physical, paper-operated industry where you have to sign things physically, go to banks, and you have to do things like have high collateral requirements, credit worthiness, also prohibit some of these less developed countries and therefore the businesses in those countries from accessing the international trade finance market. And these guys are basically enabling it on the blockchain through their smart contracts service called enforceable smart contracts. That are allowing one party to enter an agreement with another party via the blockchain through these smart contracts, all enforced by code, which means if one party pulls out or does something malicious, the other party can be compensated, or something can occur where, of course, that particular trade is beneficial to the party who did not decide to screw the other one over, and prevents that massive barrier to entry where you have to go into banks or credit unions, you have to have a high credit score, and of course you cannot be objectified based on your race or based on your sexuality, which is unfortunately, as they mentioned in this article, a big part in this world. Apparently, I don't know this for a fact, but women actually face additional challenges in this area. So of course, this just makes everything more democratized. Why I love these guys, and you may not be already aware of this, is that they're actually already partnered with Securitize, again, the company that BlackRock invested in and has in part built this Buildle fund with. Okay, it's all done through Securitize, and the XTC Network was already associated with them. As you can see here, they even congratulated Securitize on this recent partnership with BlackRock. Another reason why I'm massively bullish on XTC Network is the fact that they are the official settlement layer for the R3 Enterprise Consortium, which is a consortium of massive real-world banks, institutions, credit unions, and so on. We have, over here, Commonwealth Bank of Australia, Citigroup, HSBC, whereas Microsoft, Oracle, Intel, AWS, LG, the list goes on. They basically use XTC as the official settlement layer of the Quarter Enterprise Consortium. So this is particularly suited towards, of course, trade finance and also tokenization because, again, a lot of these have ties to this particular area of finance. Centrifuge is project number 3. And while I know you guys can't quite see the name over here, I'll just quickly move this across. CFG is the ticker. I've mentioned these guys about over 12 months ago now. I actually covered them when they first launched on Polkadot as a parachain way back in 2021, and I left them high and dry for a bit, but I must say these guys are great because they've revitalized everything. Matter of fact, they're in a coalition of some of the top real-world asset tokenization projects in crypto, which I'll show you momentarily, which kind of gives me confidence they're at the forefront of the real-world asset tokenization apocalypse, if you will. Now, the good news is if you want additional explosive power, well, these guys aren't on Binance and they're not on Coinbase yet. So there's going to be some pretty big explosive potential on the horizon. And so if you come to the homepage here, again, it's nice and clean. But what I love about it are the 2 new products they do have on offer. Number 1 is very new. This is their fund management, allowing any of these asset managers or investment funds to tokenize their whole entire portfolio, obviously providing some of the benefits that comes along with blockchain technology. You have transparency. Of course, everything's visible. You have immutability, programmability, securitization. I mean, all of these different things that Centrifuge can offer, being their own layer 1 project as well, does come with extra inherent benefits. But again, the other benefit of this was their second product, Centrifuge Prime, which basically allows you to, again, create a portfolio with different assets, real-world assets, whatever you might like. As long as it can be tokenized, it can be added to a portfolio. As you can see here, customize your portfolio based on preferences from US Treasuries and investment-grade credit to asset-backed securities or even real estate financing. You can get the right returns with the right amount of risk. They're offering what I believe to be one of the first things that will be leveraged in crypto, which is mainly around portfolios, leveraging all of these different assets in one unified place. And surprisingly, they actually have about 2/3 of their entire market cap locked up. So their TBS is $272 million, which is very impressive, all broken up into these different pools. You can see things right from US Treasuries right down to real estate bridging loans, whole loans, debt facilities, like the whole kit caboodle. Some of the people are already using and building on Centrifuge itself, which interestingly, one of these is realworldassets.xyz, which is a coalition of many different companies and especially foundations in the crypto space, such as Base, Solana, Chainlink, Ava Labs, and Securitize, looking to push the development of tokenized assets on the blockchain environment, right? With 3 different areas: education, advocacy, and building, right? Actually deploying these things as well. And these are the initial, I believe, 15 coalition members, of course, one of them being Centrifuge, as you can see right here. So this is a very big step because, of course, being a part of this coalition might actually be these projects being at the forefront of adoption in this area. So it is good to see Centrifuge is a part of this. That concludes the main projects, and I added those because no one's really talking about them right now, but I do have 4 honorable mentions as well of ones that people have been and also haven't been discussing. So of course, Ondo makes it to this list as well. These guys have exploded in the last 12 months, up almost a 6x, and they're actually number 3 on the list of highest real-world asset TVL projects, right behind Maker and STUSDT. They are $221 million in TVL. These guys are offering 3 products. 2 are out right now. First of all, their premier stablecoin, USDY, which is offering 5.1% APY right now with about $100 million in TVL. And their OUSG fund, which is their US Treasuries fund, offering again about 5% APY. And this made headlines with that coalition of tokenization foundations, that kind of rhymes, where they pretty much point out that Ondo's short-term US government bond fund, which was pretty much a tokenized version of BlackRock's iShares short treasury bond ETF, made quite a lot of waves because it accumulated at that time about $138 million in assets under management. So that was really one of the big pushes of this whole entire narrative, at least from what I've been able to pick up so far. So yes, it definitely does make it to the honorable mentions list. Another one over here is, of course, Mantra or OM, another one a lot of you have recently known about as well. These guys are their own layer 1 blockchain built on Cosmos, providing this real-world asset availability and infrastructure to the Cosmos ecosystem projects. This is a really interesting project. I'm not entirely sure how far this one can go, but of course, being a single isolated project on Cosmos, I mean, we saw the likes of Celestia, we saw the likes of Osmosis really prosper. So I guess the first in any area on the Cosmos ecosystem should do really well. Their Reserve Rights is another one of these projects as well. I was talking about these guys and have made many videos on them in the last, I'd say, 24 months. They basically allow you to create a collateral basket of any sort of tokenized asset, whether that's USDT, USDC, not BUSD anymore, but any asset that is tokenized, again, even, gold, Pax Gold, whatever it might be, and in this case, many different, of these real world assets, and then create what's called an R token or a reserve token, which is, of course, collateralized by this basket of assets to create a dollar, right? And of course, you can sell that dollar of R token into those assets and vice versa to mint one of these tokens, and anyone can create one of these R tokens. And it just begs the question of whether this thing called the Dragon portfolio, which is made up of equities, bonds, gold, so on, that beats any other asset class, which you can, of course, go ahead and invest in. You can create an R token of all of these things so long as they're tokenized on the blockchain, on Ethereum, which, of course, with the prevalence of BlackRock, and if they do push this, especially on Ethereum, I mean, it can create a whole new use case for reserve rights, which I believe is currently laying dormant at around a 600 million market cap. And lastly, I will have to bring up, of course, Quant QNT. These guys obviously sit in the interoperability narrative, whether you know it or not, tokenization as well. The beautiful thing about Quant is if you tokenize an asset on Quant, which is simplified, right? They actually pretty much allow you to use no code with this, so anyone can pretty much tokenize anything. Then you can have it, agnostic with any of these Web3 and Web2 networks or businesses, whatever it might be, right? Quant can connect to anything, and I had to add Quant to this list because it truly is one of the best tokenization protocols, and I think it's going to take time for people to realize that. Yes, you can argue I've recently sold my Quant, but of course that goes into other reasons that maybe don't obviously apply to you. And I'm not going to bring them up in this video because we're out of time today, guys. With that being said, thank you so much for watching all the way through to the very end of this video. I appreciate you so much, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.